Hello, good morning, everyone. Today we're going to explain about conflict and negotiation. But first thing first, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Fanny Deswita Anggraeni, and there's also my friend Adelia, Putri, Adiko, and Sherren. I hope you could getting new insight and knowledge from our presentation. Thank you. Next slide, okay. The first thing first, we're going to introduce about the definition. So conflict definition is a state of human interaction where there is disharmony. It emerges when parties compete over perceived or actual goals, values, or interests. It occurs when parties confront each other with opposing action and counteraction. Next slide. Transition and conflict though. Transition of conflict. The early approach to conflict assumed all conflict was bad and to be avoided. The conflict was viewed negatively and discussed with such terms as violence, destruction, additionally reforms its negative connotation. This traditional view of conflict was consistent with attitudes about group behavior that prevailed in 1093 and 193 and 194. This interaction of conflict, the interaction of view conflict encourage conflict in the grounds that it harmonious, peaceful, tranquil, and cooperative group is prone to becoming static, apathetic, and unresponsive to needs for change and innovation. The true measure of contribution of this view is recognizing that a minimal level of conflict can help a group viable, self-critical, and creative. Next slide. The resolution of focused view of conflict. In the light of these findings, research have to start to focus more on managing the whole context in which conflict occur, both before and after the behavioral stage of conflict occur. A growing body of research, which we can review later, suggests we can minimize the negative effects of conflict by focusing on preparing people for conflicts, developing resolution strategies, and facilitating open discussion. Next slide. Conflict process. Next. Stage 1, potential opposition or incompatibility. The first step in conflict process is the appearance of conditions that create opportunities for conflict to arise. This condition need to lead directly to conflict, but no one of them is necessary to if conflict is to surface. For simplicity's sake, if conflict is to surface, we group the condition which we can also look at as causes or research of conflict into three general categories: communication, structure, and personal variables. Next slide. Stage 2, cognition and personalization. The potential for opposition or incompatibility becomes actual research in the second stage. As we note, our definition of conflict, one or more of the parties must be aware that antecedent condition exists. Is at the felt conflict levels when individuals become emotionally involved that they experience anxiety, tension, frustration, or hostility. Next, okay. Stage 3 or intention. We separate our intention as a distinct stage because we have to infer the other's intent to know how to respond to his or her behavior. Many conflict is late simply because one party attributes the wrong intention to the other. There is also typically a great deal of slippage between intention and behavior, so behavior does not always accurately reflect a person's intention. Stage 4, behavior. When most people think of conflict situation, they tend to focus on stage 4 because this is where conflicts become visible. The behavior stage includes the statement, action, and reaction made by the conflicting parties, usually as overt attempts to implement their own intention. As a result of miscalculation or unskilled enactment, overt behavior sometimes deviate from this original intention. It helps to think that stage 4 is a dynamic process of interaction. The next slide will be presented by my friend Sherren.
The next one of conflict process is stage 5. It is outcomes. The action-reaction interplay between the conflicting parties result in consequences. As our model demonstrates, these outcomes may be first, functional outcomes. Conflict is constructive when it improves the quality of decision, stimulates creativity and innovation, encourage interest and curiosity among group members, provide the medium through which problems can be aired and tension released, and foster an environment of self-evaluation and change. The second one is dysfunctional outcomes. The destructive consequences of conflict on the performance of a group or an organization are generally well known. Uncontrolled opposition breeds discontent, which act to dissolve common ties and eventually leads the destruction of the group. Next slide. The next one is managing functional conflict. One of the key to minimizing counterproductive conflicts is recognizing when there really is a disagreement. Many apparent conflicts are due to people using different language to discuss the same general course of action. For example, someone is marketing might focus on distribution problems, while someone from operation will talk about supply chain management to describe essentially the same issue. Next. The next one is negotiation. We can define negotiation as a process that occurs when two or more parties decide how to allocate scarce resource. Although we commonly think of the outcome of negotiation in one shot, economic terms, like negotiating over the price of a car, every negotiation in organization also affects the relationship between the negotiators and the way the negotiator feel about themselves. Depending on how much the parties are going to interact with one another, sometimes maintaining the social relationship and behaving ethically will be just as important as achieving an intermediate outcome of bargaining. The next one is bargaining strategies. There are two general approaches to negotiation. The first one is distribute bargaining. It is identifying feature that operates under zero-sum condition, that is any gain I make is at your expense, and vice versa. The second one is integrative bargaining. Integrative bargaining bonds negotiator and allows them to leave the bargaining table feeling they have achieved a victory. The next slide, we will discuss about negotiation process. Next. The first step of negotiation process is first preparation and planning. Relationship will change as a result of a negotiation, so that's another outcome to take into consideration. If you could win a negotiation but push the other side to resentment or animosity, it might be wiser to pursue a more compromising style. Think carefully about what the other side is willing to give up. People who underestimate the opponent's willingness to give on key issues before the negotiation even start end up with lower outcome from a negotiation. The next slide will explain by my friend Adelia.
All right, so the step 2 is definition of ground rules. Once you have done your planning and develop a strategy, you are ready to begin defining the other party and the ground rules and procedure of the negotiation itself. Step 3, bargaining and problem solving. The essence of the negotiation process is the actual give and take in, trying to hash out an agreement. This is where both parties will be adoptly need to make consent. Step 4 is closure and implementation. For major negotiation, from labor management negotiation to bargaining over lease terms to buying a piece of real estate to negotiating a job offer for senior management position, this requires hammering out the specific informal contract. For most cases, however, a closure of the negotiation process is nothing more than a formal handshake. Individual differences in negotiation effectiveness. One, personality traits in negotiation. The best distributive bargainer appears to be a disagreeable introvert, someone more interested in his own or her own outcomes than in pleasing the other party and having pleased social actions. These people tend to be very anxious about disagreements and plan to give in quickly to avoid unpleasant conflict even before the negotiations start. Two, moods or emotion in negotiation. In distributive negotiation, it appears that negotiator in position of power or equal status who show anger negotiate better outcomes because their anger induces a concession from their opponents. All these finding recording emotion have related to distributive bargains. In integrative negotiation, in contrast, positive moods and emotion appear to lead more integrative agreement or a higher level of joint gain. Three, culture in negotiation. Use the question and answer methods of negotiation were associated with the superior negotiation outcomes. So although there are some cultural difference in negotiation style, it appears that some negotiation tactic yield superior outcomes across the culture. Okay, so this is the conflict and the unit performance, and there's a graph and the explanation. So as you can see in the graph A is shows that the station A, the level of conflict of this station is low or none. So the type of the conflict is dysfunctional. Unit internal characteristic apathetic, stagnant, non-responsive to change, or lack of new ideas. So the result is a unit of performance outcome is low. As for the station for B, level of conflict is optimal, and then the type of conflict is functional. Unit internal characteristic is viable, self-critical, and innovative. So the unit performance outcome for this station B is high. And then the last one is station C. As you can see for the graph, the level of outcome is high and the type of conflict is dysfunctional. And then unit internal characteristic is disruptive, chaotic, and uncooperative. So the unit performance outcome is low. All right, this is the end of our presentation. Thank you for your pay attention and then listening to our explanation before. And then we are truly apologize if there's some mistaken from our explanation before. Thank you. Have a great day. And last but not least, there are some questions for you. There are three question, so you can answer it in the comment section in the YouTube. And if there's some question too for us, you can answer. You can ask way to the comment, and we will gladly to answer it. Thank you.